Have I in my life ever written people off? Have I ever wrote people off? Have I wrote people off that don't think like me? Have I written people off who don't believe like me? People who have attacked the way I think? They attack what I believe? Well, have I written people off who promote behavior contrary to what I think is right and just? And then I started thinking about, I have. And then I started to think through the feelings that are attached to those people when I'm hearing these things, or I come into contact, or however it is that I learn that they're different than me, they think different than me. I started thinking about the emotions and the feelings that are attached. And I could easily use words like disgusted, frustrated, anger, and at times maybe even hate. I mean, to be honest, when I really started to think through those, I would be embarrassed to even tell you the deeper thoughts that I've had about those people and the way they think. I'm just being honest. I want to be transparent because we need to learn to be transparent so that we can examine the unfinished business of our heart. I began to see very quickly that I shared at some level Jonah's heart. And I didn't like that. I did not like thinking that there's some resemblance to Jonah's heart as it pertains to the way he felt about the Ninevites and the way that I felt about people who think, behave, believe, react differently than I do. I wanted to write people off in my life. You see, this thinking is becoming very popular in today's society. It's very popular. It's very trendy. You see it in sports. You see it in politics. You see it in relationships. You see it in the workplace. And it's this whole idea what we call cancel culture. And it's a real thing. Cancel culture is a real thing. When people believe different than us, behave different than us, then you know what? They hold different opinions than us. They don't live up to our standards enough. They disagree with us, argue with us, question us. We tend to cancel them. We write them off. It's a real thing. Because you know why I think it is? It's easier just to cancel somebody than to step into that and have dialogue and have relationship. It's easier to just cut people out of our lives and go another direction. I ain't got time for that. We start creating space that's easier for us to navigate. Jonah was living out cancel culture before it became a trendy thing to do. Now listen, a little over 4 years ago, right before I came to work here at Heights Church, so I was transitioning out of my former church, and I had a little bit of time before there, and then before I came to work and serve here, I knew and felt in my heart that God wanted to take care of some unfinished business in my heart. And so I scheduled a retreat. These days that I went up to the mountain, I set up a camp in this beautiful spot that I like to go, and I was going to spend time with the Lord. Look, this wasn't going to be a vacation. This was going to be an opportunity to give full access to my heart to the Lord. I was going to put all my cards on the table because I knew God wanted me to be a better leader. He wanted me to be a better pastor. I know He wanted me to lean into some things into my life. I didn't know specifically what that was going to be. I did not see it yet. But I had planned out this time for these 3 days to be alone with God. And I need to let you know, everyone who knows me, I am an extreme extrovert. I love to have people around me. And I have tried to camp by myself before, and it's an absolute disaster. I have tried to camp before, and then after the first day, I drove home one time and grabbed one of my boys so that I'd have company. That's how bad it is. But this time was so rich and sweet because who I brought with me mattered to my soul. And I brought the Lord, and I spent intentional time, and I opened my heart. And so that first day there, I scheduled, this time away with the Lord. I went on hikes. I didn't call it chair time. I didn't know that term at the time, but that time in my camping chair, marinating and soaking up the word of God, just allowing it to speak to me and reveal things to me was so rich. There were times when I went on hikes. I would go on hikes, and I love they were my prayer hikes, and I just grab a backpack, put some lunch in there and some goodies, and I would just take off and go hike from my campsite. And I'm walking along, and I'm talking, like literally verbally talking to God, just conversation, listening, but having dialogue and just praying out loud. I guarantee it, if you would have been on a trail that day, and there may have been, I don't think so, but if you were on that trail and you saw one of my prayer hikes, you'd have said to yourself, that guy is talking to himself, and it's probably safe for me to go the opposite direction, because I was doing business, but it was good and it was rich, and it probably looked weird to other people, but to me, it was everything. And at the end of it all, at the end of this trip, I invited a very good, trusted friend up to the camp to spend that last night there with me. You guys may know his name is Pastor Will, and him and I have been good friends for a long time. And so I invite him up to camp, and I wanted to be able to unpack all of the things that God had revealed to me. I wanted to share the new commitments and the goals for accountability. I needed to share this spiritual journey that I was on these last 3 days with somebody. And around the campfire that night, as I'm just pouring it out, and he's just rich conversation, he says these words to me: God is about to do a good work in you. He realized of all the things that I had been encountering and happening on this retreat, he said, God is about to do a great work in you. Here's what he didn't say, and I didn't catch it at first. He didn't say God's going to do a good work through you. He said God's about to do a good work in you. Now, fast forward a couple of weeks, and I'm now into my first, second, third day here at Heights Church. And I'm driving in and praying and just kind of, getting my heart right and ready for the day, which is what I usually do as I drive here. And God spoke clearly. He was about to take care of that business of the unfinished business of my heart. You see, for some time, I had been, like a lot of us, spending way too much time on social media, going through the feeds, reading all the opinions and posts of people that are on friends on my list. And I'll be honest, a lot of these people are friends, and friends that I had been, connected to since childhood. And I was spending far too much time on social media. Now, there were a lot of posts, and I'm sure you see them. There are people posts on there, people don't think like me, believe like me, act like me. They don't promote behavior that I think is right or just. They don't value the things I value. Their idea of right and wrong, they look completely different than me, than what I think. Some of those posts actually attack and insult my faith. So for months, I'd been exercising this great idea that I had, because I was just getting furious of everything I was reading. I was having those emotions of anger and disgust and frustration. So I said, here's a great idea. Every time I see a post that I don't agree with or is contrary to what I believe, I'm just going to delete them. I'm going to cancel them. I'm going to write them off. I'm going to say unfollow, 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 unfollow. And I'm cleaning up my feed. And I was like, just whoop, you're gone, delete, unfollow. This went on for some time. I was creating this safe space for myself. So on my drive into work that morning, I'm praying to God. He spoke clearly to my life. And I know this is a long story, but you need to hear this. He spoke loud and clear to me to that day. He said this: Tim, if you were to come upon a car accident, a major injury accident, and you were first on the scene, you were a first responder, and you jump out and you run up to that vehicle and that injured person who's severely injured and needs your help, would you lean into that car window and say, hey, who did you vote for? What is your sexual orientation? How do you feel about X, Y, and Z? And would they have to answer your questions correctly before you rendered help? Of course not. Of course not, Lord. Of course not. I would help those people. It wouldn't matter. And he said this, then why are you deleting those I want you to reach? Why are you removing the opportunity so that they can see me more clearly? How will they ever see if you just delete them and unfollow them? I have called you, Tim, to make my name known. I have called you so that I can use you to help others see me more clearly. I was writing people off. I was writing off the very people that God loved and wanted to restore. I was deleting opportunities that God was putting in front of me. My heart broke. I wept and I cried out for forgiveness. I cried out that he would handle that unfinished business of wanting to write people off because they just think different than I do and they believe differently than I do. You see, as followers of Jesus, we are to take every opportunity to help people see God more clearly. That is our job. That is our role.